So, for the next little bit of video, I wasn't sure whether to do like defending, because we spoke about position and where the players stand, and we spoke about like how pace gives you these circles. But I think the next most interesting thing to look at is passing. And the reason I want to look at passing is because it's confusing, and I'm going to like I'll probably put comments on these videos afterwards, maybe make a refined video afterwards as well if people are interested, because I'm not going to get all the ideas down onto the page. There's so many things that work together. This game is like Dwarf Fortress. I know it isn't Dwarf Fortress, I'm aware of that, but it's like it. So I'm going to try and put together a little theme here, right? So, the first thing that determines what pass your player wants to make is the team instructions or the individual play instructions. You have three. You can have short, you can have direct, you can have long. Okay, they're the three. So, remember me saying that there are 7 like coordinates this way and 11 coordinates this way. This determines where the player looks for the pass. So if you've got it on short, the player looks within the first couple of rows that he's got. So if I've got a player, that is stood here, and I have selected short passing, and you've got a guy free here, and you've got a guy free here, he will prioritise this player. Okay, he can play this pass, but he would prefer on short passing to prioritise this. Now, I believe it's the teamwork check that it looks at to decide if it follows your instructions. I don't think there's anything else that decides it. I think it's teamwork that decides if they follow your instructions. I need to play test that one. I haven't yet. Okay, so he will always almost play it. If he's got 20 teamwork, he'll always do what you ask. If he's got 1 teamwork, he'll just boot it down the line, obviously. So that is like in 1 or 2 squares, right? Direct, it's similar, but it's not the first 1 and 2 squares, or coordinates. This one wants to go 3 or 4 coordinates. Okay, so what this guy will do is, even though he's seen this pass here, he won't go for this pass. He'll try and play a more direct pass into this guy, and sometimes he'll play this one. Okay, so that'd be your direct one. So that's where they're looking. And then long, well, 5 or 6. He can just put it as far as he wants, and they'll always prioritise the player up here. Every single player to play the ball to has what is known as an attractiveness rating. Okay, so they have an attractiveness rating. So what that basically means is, if there is a guy with a big circle of influence stood here, and your player thinks that this guy it's a risky pass to play to him because this guy's got a massive circle of influence, he won't play to him. Okay, so this player is looking for the guy with the highest attractiveness to play his pass to. So if this player is marked, and we've got a player here who's not marked, he'll prefer this pass. Okay, so that's the first thing. That's the very basic thing, that this determines where your player wants to pass it, and teamwork is if he follows it. Otherwise, he'll rank the attractiveness of every single player, and he'll play to the most attractive pass. And obviously, depending on what you are doing, it'll add to a dice roll of that. So then the next thing it checks is the player's passing ability. So the passing ability is going to determine if the player can play a pass. Okay, so the player looks, and there's a pass here down the line, and there's this player here, and this player here that we've got, their player, he's really fast and really quick. He's got a lot of work rate, and actually he can just there. So if this pass here, no, it's not very central, is it? But I'll put it there. So if this pass here is played absolutely precisely, it will not go into this person's little circle. So this guy has got a pass that he wants to play, and if he plays it perfectly, it won't be his little circle. And if he's got high passing, where he wants to pass it will generally be this coordinate. Now if his passing is low, he might play it this way, and it'll go through the player's little circle of influence, or it might go this way, it might go out for a throw-in, right? Passing determines the coordinate spread. So high passing will give him like a smaller coordinate spread. It could still go on any one of these, but the higher the passing, the more likely it is to go to this. The overriding thing for passing is technique. So if he's got high passing and high technique, he will always hit these passes that avoid all of the circles. It's almost like 20 technique prevents any bad thing from happening on the thing that they choose to do. And it's got a massive amount of power in everything that the player does. So anytime there's a decision the player makes where he has to do it perfectly and he gets the pass lane perfectly, the technique determines that the pass goes down that lane. So now what you're probably thinking is, well, you've told me how players decide where to pass, and you've told me if a pass is successful or not, because if lower passing, he's got this wider like cone of where he passes it, and it'll end up like going in a completely wrong area, and 20 passing will just have this one, and technique will make sure it does that. Why do players with high creativity get the ball more? Because that usually do my head in. So for some reason, high creativity, specifically freakishly high creativity, so if you've got like just normal creativity, it doesn't do this. Freakish high creativity, so when you get like a player that's got 20 creativity and like 10 every other attribute, their attractiveness gets bumped up where they become a ball magnet. Every single player wants to pass to that player. So that's sort of how passing works. So if you want players that are going to follow your short, direct, or that's what short, direct, and long mean. If you want players that are going to follow this, then obviously you want good teamwork, good technique to pick the passes out, and decent passing. And like I said, creativity just means the player will get the ball more. It doesn't mean he will try like more outrageous passes, but he will see more passes. So, for example, we'll talk about creativity again. So, let's say we're playing short passing again. Let me get rid of some of these lines because I'm going to go mad with all these lines here. So, when we've got creativity, the player, and it was called vision before the changed it to creativity, it was called vision, right? And the reason it's called vision is the higher creativity the player has, the more players he can see. So with low creativity, this guy can only see these passes to make. With higher creativity, he can see these passes to make. With like insane creativity, he can see these passes to make. So you might think, well, if I've got this guy and he's got high creativity and low teamwork, he will always play these like insane passes. But for some reason, teamwork also affects the magnetism of the player for receiving the ball, and I don't know why. Again, this is what the code monkeys have done. They've looked at it, they've looked under the hood, and they've like worked out everything that happens. So with passing, we want a high passing attribute. Creativity determines what vision they have got, how many players they can see, and that means they can obviously pick better passes. And they have a higher attractiveness, and then it's the mentality that determines. So if you're telling a player how to pass, I'm now going to go on to something that's passing adjacent.